Hi, if you haven't already met me, I'm Luke and I'm the owner of Home Instead in York and also Home Instead in Scarborough and Ryedale along with my wife Anne-Marie. I wanted to make a short presentation to you about how we work at Home Instead, about our mission and our values within the organisation. When I got involved with Home Instead back in 2008, it was a complete career change for me. So I do identify with those amongst you for whom this is your first job in care, and this is potentially a career change for you too. I do understand how that feels. But I think that also made me want to make the point that at that time, back in 2008, I could have set up a completely independent business, nothing to do with Home Instead. I suppose I could have set up a business that had nothing to do with care or home care. But I chose Home Instead because the values of the organisation and the values that I think were set by the founders in the States, Paul and Laurie Hogan, are what really makes the difference. For me, that's what makes Home Instead what it is. And I want to make sure that everybody who is part of the team at Home Instead understands that and shares those values. So watch this presentation. Hopefully it makes sense. But if you do have any questions, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Thanks. Welcome to Home Instead. I'm Luke and I'm the owner of Home Instead in York and also in Scarborough and Ryedale. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how we work at Home Instead. By talking a little bit about our mission. So we want to change the face of ageing by providing a quality of care that enables people to remain living in their own home for as long as they choose to as they grow older. Underpinning that mission are a series of values which I'll explain in more detail. So firstly, we aim to be responsive to our clients and their families' needs. We also want to provide a service that can be relied upon by those who use it and those who recommend it to others. We want to build a trained and engaged team of people because that's critical in order to build the trust of our clients, the community, and each other, of course. Expand a little bit on what we mean by responsive and what that means in practice. So we're responsive when we're communicating with colleagues and clients in an effective and efficient and timely way. We could also be argued to be responsive when we're adapting to clients' circumstances and clients' individual preferences. We're definitely not a one-size-fits-all service, and that's something that sets us apart from some other home care providers. We're responsive when we're putting care in place or making changes to care that has been requested by a client, when we do that as quickly as we can, or certainly in the timing that's been requested by the client. And finally, I think we can be responsive by reacting positively to challenges that we face in our work at Home Instead. So what do I mean by reliable? Well, at the core of it, really, I mean that we keep our promises. We make promises in our everyday work, really. When Home Instead signs a contract to provide our service to clients, that's a promise we're making to them, and I think it's really important that we do everything we can to stick to our promises, whether that means turning up on time, being punctual for client visits, or returning a phone call when we've said that we will. But also, perhaps more seriously, I think being reliable as an organisation is very much about ensuring the safety of clients and colleagues, and taking responsibility for ourselves and our own safety at all times. I think a good example of reliability is when people talk about the mum test, and we try to apply the mum test in everything we do. If you haven't heard about that, the mum test is just basically a question you would ask yourself if you were wondering, the best way forward or the best course of action. And you'd think, well, if this was my mum, if this client was my mum, would I do this in those circumstances? Would I do this for my mum? And if the answer is yes, then you've passed the mum test and you're taking the right course of action. And then when we're talking about creating and building a trained and engaged team, what does that mean? Well, I think it's important to say that for everybody to be engaged, I think we need to recognise that we are all one team at Home Instead. No matter what your role is or where you're located, we're all part of the Home Instead York, Scarborough and Ryedale team. And in fact, we're part of a bigger team, which is Home Instead UK. I think it's important that we celebrate successes, both professional and personal. And it's absolutely essential that we're open and honest when we make mistakes. Mistakes happen all the time. I think if we're open and honest about them, we're much more likely to learn from them and then more likely to avoid them in future. I think we should all embrace opportunities to improve. That's how we are going to become more engaged and better trained as a team. And certainly as an organisation and personally, I believe very strongly in investing in personal development and training. And I think that is the way we will improve our service and the way we will grow our business. So by delivering against those three values that I've just talked about, we're aiming to build trust. And by that, I mean, we're aiming to earn each other's trust within Home Instead, but also we're looking to build the trust of our clients and their families. I think it's really important to remember that lots of families are putting a huge amount of faith in us to look after their loved ones. And then finally, we're looking to build trust in the community. We're looking to grow our reputation in the community. So those are the values that are underpinning Home Instead and how we operate. We're aiming to be responsive, we're looking to be reliable, and we're building a trained and engaged team. And that's all about building trust amongst each other, but with our clients and families and of course in the community. And the reason I'm sharing these values with you is just so that everybody is clear on how we operate and what we're trying to achieve. And ultimately what it comes down to is that we're just trying to be the best at what we do. We are rated outstanding in York, so we're doing well, but it's very important not to be complacent, and we're always looking to do better and improve at what we do. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you've learned something from it. If you ever have any questions, then please do get in touch. Thank you.